Thanks, Roger. That'll be great.
Sarah, just in case I forget, can you remind me to stop YouTube when we come to the Bidder of the Year bit?
Yeah, definitely.
So are we on, Keith?
Not yet. It's just starting up.
That'll be great.
Okay. Yeah, we are on.
Right. Thank you very much. Right. Welcome everybody to this meeting of Liss Parish Council. See how we go, but with Zoom, you're never quite sure, particularly having seen the experience of parish councils elsewhere. But I don't think we're going to emulate that particular example. Hopefully,
we might have a few more spectators.
Maybe so. Okay, let's start. Apologies.
We have apologies from councillors Nibbs and Gerard.
Thank you. Right, and can I have declarations of interest? As you know, we're obliged to follow a particular format when we're doing it remotely on this. So I'll start off myself. I, Roger Hargreaves, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening. Keith Budden.
Thank you, Roger. I, Councillor Budden, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Sheila Baldwin.
You on mute, Sheila?
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I, Sheila Baldwin, I'm a member of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I've read the agenda and I have no interest to declare in any item.
Thank you very much. Jenny Burnett.
I have a bit of paper this time, so I might get it right. I am Jenny Bennett, a parish councillor, Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Rob Finn.
I, Rob Finn, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Jeanette Lowe.
We don't appear to have Jeanette at the moment.
No, she's not with us at the moment.
Right, but we're expecting her, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Right. Howard Lindsay.
I, Councillor Howard Lindsley, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Leanne MacDonald.
I, Councillor Leanne MacDonald, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I have read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Andy Smith.
Councillor Andy Smith. I'm a parish councillor for Liss Parish Council. I confirm that I've read the agenda and I have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Claire Williams.
I, Councillor Claire Williams, am a parish councillor of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much. Nick Wilson.
Hi, Councillor Nick Wilson, a member of Liss Parish Council. I confirm I've read the agenda and have no interest to declare in any of the items being considered this evening.
Thank you very much indeed. That should be everybody who's present, who's actually a member of the council. So thank you very much indeed. Okay, item 3, chair's announcements. First of all, let me welcome on behalf of everybody, Jenny. I think this is your first meeting of the full council. So make what you will of it, as you might say. tends to be some tends to deal with quite a lot of formal business, being a full council meeting, as opposed to the real business, which is often in committees and elsewhere on that. Nevertheless, it is important that we go through this. So welcome.
Thank you.
Can I mention the annual parish meeting? It'll take place at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, the 17th of March. For those who are not familiar with this, new members of the council, this is a meeting which is normally held very much in public. It is a meeting for the public to come along and ask to hear a report on how we've done over the course of the year from me and the finance chairman and so on, but also to ask lots of questions and for us to explain what we're doing. We can't do all that in quite that form this year, but certainly we will be giving the opportunity for people to ask questions in advance, and we will try and answer them at the meeting. And I think Sarah is just looking at the arrangements that we can make to do that. Thank you. Can I also mention that we have received a further grant of, in fact, 2 lots of £4,000, one for the village hall and one for the pavilion, which have been received via EHDC from government in order to mitigate against the loss of income during this latest lockdown, since we're only allowed to open the facilities for very limited activities indeed. So those are welcome sums to us, because it is clear as we're going, we will struggle over the course of the next financial year to get insufficient income for those venues. While talking about the impact of COVID, can I also just mention the importance of guidance on the safe use of playgrounds? We get reports regularly of a lack of social distancing, parents socializing in the play areas and so on. Parents do need to understand that the play areas are primarily for the children, who do, particularly those who don't have access to private outdoor space. Parents and guardians and carers should take their children for exercise, but not socialize themselves. And it's quite important that they try and keep social distancing and stand by the rules. There is guidance there in how to use the play areas, and we really should try and encourage everybody to do that. Otherwise, I wasn't going to announce anything further, which isn't going to appear on the agenda anyway. So thank you for that. If I could turn to the minutes of the last meeting. First of all, does anybody wish to pick up anything in terms of them being a true and correct record?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things, Roger.
Yes.
I've got an additional query actually after your announcements. So the sum of £4,000, is that in addition to the one you announced in January?
Yes.
Oh, right. Oh, that's good, good, good. Yeah.
What, Leanne, you had something else?
Yeah, I did. Right at the end, actually. It was the exempt session.
Yes.
And it says that Councillor MacDonald left the meeting.
Sorry, can I just interrupt? The exempt minutes are to be taken in exempt session at the end of the meeting.
No, they're on the minutes here. They're actually on the minutes. Item 1421. Councillor MacDonald left the meeting at this point. I can do them in the exempt if you want, but they're actually on the issue I wanted to raise was something connected with what's on the minutes.
Can I There's not 1521.
No, 1421.
Okay.
There's a 1421 and then there's one that says 1521.
Yeah.
Is that an error? Sarah, can I ask you for some guidance here? I can't hear you on mute.
Sorry, there's a set of exempt minutes under 1521 that we'll come to later, but I think Leanne might have an issue of 1421, which isn't exempt. Is that right?
I can do it now or later, it doesn't matter. Yeah, it just says left the meeting, but it doesn't actually, I did say why I was leaving the meeting, but that hasn't been put in. And I do think it's important that it's recorded.
What did you say at the time was the reason for leaving?
Said that I did not feel that the application process had been fair to all candidates, and I did not wish to.
I think that's a bit for the exempt session, Leanne.
Yes, that's 1521.
No, it's no.
It needs to be moved to 1521 to the exempt bit. We can discuss that later.
Okay, that's fine.
It will go in the exempt bit.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I'm not wishing to stop you saying it. It's just getting it said at the right place.
Okay, that's fine. As long as I can say it.
That's fine.
Be recorded.
And if you could think, what are the precise words that you would like to be added, but they should really reflect whatever you said at the time. Okay. Any other items in terms of these being a true and correct record?
Yeah, on page 2, the penultimate, well, 4 or 5 lines up, the penultimate para, it doesn't seem to make sense.
Exactly, what do you mean? Sorry.
Councillor Smith stressed the importance of not chasing the doctor's surgeries as letters, given the pressure they were under. It doesn't make sense. Councillor Smith may know what he said.
I said that we shouldn't chase doctors' surgeries for letters for people to get appointments of vaccine clinics, because it would just delay the administration of the vaccine programme. So I think that makes sense from what you read.
Well, would it be clearer if the word "as" was actually for?
Yes.
I think it would. Let's just change that to 4. And also, I did just wonder, as a simply clarification, just above that, you've got C, which says governance review, and then you've got another one, D, that's budget. I do wonder if it would just be clearer to a reader from outside the council if it did actually say EHDC governance review and EHDC budget.
Yeah.
Otherwise, unless you're very familiar with it and trace it back up to the top and realise that Keith was only talking about the parish, the district council, that could be misread. So could we just insert EHDC in front of governance and budget?
Noted.
Okay, right. Could I have somebody move the? Oh, Sheila.
Howard got something as well. Sheila first, and then Howard.
Is it are these are points of accuracy?
No. Yes. Well, it's. I'd like clarification on something. It's basically. I did text Keith, but I didn't hear from you. It's to do with the question I asked last time, and I don't know if you remember, my iPad wasn't working. You couldn't see me, I couldn't hear you very well. It's about 07/21 update from the district councillors, and it was about people who are being given shelter, and maybe it's a typing error, or maybe it's just the terminology I don't understand. Offering temporary accommodation to the homeless facing 2 4 consecutive nights below 0 degrees. Does that mean that homeless people were given shelter if there were going to be 4 consecutive nights below, or that they were given shelter, but only for 4 consecutive?
Right. Okay, I understand now, Sheila. No, it means they were given shelter if they were going to be up to 4 consecutive nights.
So what happens if it's colder for longer?
Well, then it carries on. So as long as it's going to be more than 4 consecutive nights, then they get.
Okay.
They get the shelter.
So should it strictly, given the fact we're dealing with accuracy here, sorry to sound like a bureaucrat, but should it be, say, facing up to 4 consecutive nights?
Yeah, that would actually probably be better.
Yes, so could we put in the word up in front of 2?
Okay, can I also ask, when it says that eventually people would transfer to social housing in due course, What does in due course mean? 6 months, 6 years?
Can we deal with that under matters arising, please?
Oh, I thought that was part of number
No.
No,
four.
we're doing with corrections at the moment.
Yeah.
Howard.
Howard, a correction point?
Yes. Coming back to the point that Councillor MacDonald made, she actually left the meeting before we went into the exempt session. So that is correct as it stands, and it shouldn't be moved into the exempt session because it would then be inaccurate. She did leave before we went into the exempt session.
Yes, I did. That's true.
Right, that's very true. So Councillor MacDonald actually left under 1421.
Yeah.
On that, in which case, and it was that was public. Do you want to give the reason, please?
Yeah, I left the meeting because I didn't feel that the application process had been fair to all candidates, and therefore I felt I should not be part of the process.
Can I just say that in the exempt minutes, you voted. It says you voted.
No, I left.
She wasn't present.
I left.
Okay, then they are inaccurate.
Right, we'll come to those then.
We'll come to those, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come to those.
Okay.
Can I turn to the clerk? Did you get that wording?
Yes,
Okay.
I've got that. Yeah.
In that case, then, with the addition of that wording, I then move adoption of these minutes. Can I have somebody seconding that, please? Howard, thank you.
And yeah.
Okay, that's lovely. Right, we now turn to matters arising from the minutes.
Did we have a show of hands for all in favour?
Oh,
Yeah.
Minutes.
Yeah, that's everyone.
Yeah, I think everybody did. Okay. Right. Any matters arising? Anybody got issues to bring up?
Yeah, I think Sheila's got one.
Sheila, fair enough. I think you get there first.
Sorry, it was just, I wanted to know what was meant by in due course. People who have been given shelter will be given social housing in due course. And I just what that meant.
Keith Budden, are you able to give an answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to be specific on, Sheila, because obviously it depends on their personal circumstances and where they want to live, etc., etc. So all efforts are made to give them social housing as quickly as possible. But I couldn't really put a timescale on it because the timescale varies all the time, depending on the demand at the particular time that they come forward.
So is there a lot of social housing available to dispose of? Or?
I think overall it's fair to say that at the moment, yes. I mean, in most areas we have social housing becoming available within, I believe off the top of my head, I will clarify this afterwards, but I believe the local figure is currently around about 4 months that people are getting social housing in. So it's a relatively short period of time.
Thank you very much for that. Who else wishes to raise? Nick Wilson.
I just wondered if under 1121 we could have an update on the agreement for the use of the Grandsons hut. I think I know where it's got to, but it'd be helpful if either the chair or Sarah could just update the record.
No, thank you for that, Nick. I'd marked it myself that it was something that we would need to bring up. As far as I'm aware, both myself and the vice chairman have signed 2 copies of the agreement, and they have been passed over to the trust. And are we waiting to receive one back, or what is happening? Can I ask the clerk on that?
I obtained 2 sets of documents with full signatures, so we have one and the trust have one.
Right, so the
So-
exchange of the documents has taken place.
Yes.
Right, okay. Which actually completes the formal business over the agreement, as far as I'm concerned, with each side holding a signed copy of the agreement. Is that okay, Nick?
Yep, I just thought we ought to have it for the record that it has actually happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There seems to be some uncertainty as to when the men's shed members, committee members, actually will be able to start work, but the way is now open to them to do so.
Yes, I think the combination of lockdown and the weather has made it very difficult for them. So we wait to see, but I'm expecting that the Facilities Committee, and you in particular, with the support of David Dodds, will be liaising with them over the practicalities of that.
Absolutely.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Any other items that people want to bring up on Howard?
Yeah, thank you. Under 0721 E at the bottom, Keith gave us a very good update on what was happening with COVID. And I don't know whether he's got any more recent information. And the other thing is, at the bottom it says, Councillor Smith stressed the importance of not chasing the doctor's surgery, etc., as letters would be sent. That is not accurate. I don't know whether it applies to all doctors, but my doctor's surgery, they did it by phone calls. So I've never had a letter.
To say, Howard, I believe that was accurate at the time of the advice, and it's shifting in the vaccine rollout. So at the time that was said, that was the accurate advice.
Yeah.
I'm not questioning the accuracy of what you said at the time, and that you said it. It's just making the point, as a matter arising, that a lot of people don't have letters.
Yes, I believe that is correct, but the record is correct here. What you're doing is adding additional information, but for many people it's actually a phone call rather than a letter.
Yeah.
Right, thank you very much. Any other point, Leanne?
Sorry, I didn't. I thought that Councillor Lindsay was going to raise it, but under 0721A, Councillor Budden was going to check whether those in bed and breakfast accommodation were required to vacate during the day.
Yes, thank you, Leanne. Yes, I did check, and they weren't required to vacate during the day, so they just.
They're not.
No.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, thank you.
Fine, thanks for that. Anybody else got any matters arising from the minutes? Right, thank you very much indeed. Let us move on. Item 5. Russell, welcome to the meeting, and can I turn to you to speak to your report if you wish, although everybody should have it in writing in front of them.
Great. Well, thank you, Chairman. I'll just spend 2 minutes mentioning a few things. We were really delighted to get this money for decarbonisation of schools. 27 million is a lot of money to Hampshire County Council. And we're all, as county councillors, obviously lobbying to make sure we get our share of it. And I'm doing that, making sure some of it comes East Hampshire, or the right amount, and it will. So that's good. And I have been engaging with the local schools about it as well to make sure that they're teed up for it. On the local transport plan consultation, I would just like to take this opportunity to urge you all to respond. You know, the population of Hampshire is pretty split on what should happen with our roads. We've got a strong cycle lobby, but we've also got a strong motorist lobby. So whatever your view, please take the time to go to the microsite and put your feedback in for the consultation. Thirdly, I've mentioned the salting, which I did go very well this winter. Hopefully the freezing weather is now behind us, but they did a good job of keeping the roads gritted, I thought. And I wanted to mention that. A lot of technology goes into it, actually. And then finally, byways open to traffic. And what I just wanted to take a moment to explain is that the South Downs National Park Authority has powers to bring traffic regulation orders to restrict vehicular use of boats. It's a power that they've never used, but other national parks have used this power. Parliament has given this power to national parks. And what I'm saying, and some of my colleagues on the national park are saying, is, well, we should be prepared to use this power. I know that there are some boats in Liss Parish that do get pretty cut up and muddied up. And so it may be something that you'll be willing as a parish council to join with me in lobbying the National Park Authority. So the chairman and chief exec, I think the more letters we can get to them to build up a head of steam, as it were, the better. And I've been talking to them as well, but I think the strength of feeling that there is in the community is something that they need to understand. And yeah, happy to answer any questions about anything in my report.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Russell. Just on that last point on the boats issue, is this something that, Andy, you could just take up in highways and have a word with Russell about it?
Happy to have it on our highways agenda. I guess it would be useful to have someone potentially to volunteer to look for a kind of solution and work with Russell on it, but we can take it up at the next meeting, no problem.
Boat, I know from my professional experience elsewhere that boats are something that causes an awful lot of problems around the country. And they have actually stopped designating them, but a number of authorities who actually were quite quick to adopt them, like Hampshire, have found themselves lumbered with these very crude instruments, which have caused all sorts of difficulties. So I have to say, I personally would welcome a good look at them to see what's appropriate.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll leave that with you, Andy.
It's certainly a problem in and around byways of Liss.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll leave that to Andy to liaise with Russell and look at it on the agenda of the committee. Any other questions for Russell?
Howard's got his hand up.
Oh, yes, Howard.
Yeah, thanks, Russell, for pointing out the opportunity to be consulted on the local transport plan. Maybe I missed something. I was unaware of it until I read that. And I think a lot of people might be in the same boat, I was going to say, but perhaps it's wrong in view of the previous comments. But you know, it's very difficult because people are not out as much as they normally are. But one of the suggestions I would have is that some posters are circulated to town and parish councils so that they can advertise it on their notice board. Because the problem with these things is it's only a few people in the know who end up contributing.
Okay, thank you. I'll definitely pass on that suggestion. I mean, I think there was a press notice about this. I'll double check that. But I think that Hampshire County Council is using traditional media and social media to get the word out. And I just say this is only the beginning of the consultation process. The consultation will feed into the draft, and then there'll be another consultation on the draft towards the end of the year. But we want maximum engagement, definitely, and we want people to be thinking about this and debating it. Yeah.
Russell, the way you've written it is though it's individuals have been consulted, but actually is the parish council being asked for a view?
I think the parish council is absolutely being asked to respond, yes. So, you know, we'll talk about that at Highways Committee as well, I think. And
yeah, again, sorry, Andy, but if I could leave that again with you to pick that up and just see whether as a council we need to respond.
Nick's got his hand up, Roger.
Nick?
Oh, sorry, how did you say have something?
I was just going to say, is there a closing date for this particular part of the consultation?
Not sure, actually. I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to check that.
Okay, thanks.
I was just going to add to what was said before about us helping. Our local Facebook page, community Facebook page, as opposed to parish council Facebook page, combined with next door Liss, would get to many hundreds of people, I mean thousands. And if we were given something that was short and snappy, a combination of us could get it onto those websites, websites.
Thank you. Can I take Jenny then?
Yeah, I've just looked back on the Hampshire County Council Facebook page, and there's a post from the 1st of February that's got a link, by the looks of it, to that consultation, so I can share that across the Facebook group just to see if we can get a few extra bodies on board.
That would be very nice on that.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. I've just checked. The deadline is actually the 28th of February. So that's in a couple of weeks' time, basically.
Okay. But that's only the first stage, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's before our highways meeting, isn't it? Which is on.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. Isn't it on highways 1st of March, is it? Chair?
I have no idea when the highways meeting. Hang on.
Well, you can all still respond as individuals if you want to, maybe the parish council can respond to the next consultation later in the year.
It is the 1st of March, the meeting. Andy, what I would suggest that even if it's not possible to have a discussion, if you could have a quick look at it and at least put some holding position for the parish council, so that we're effectively logged on the Hampshire County Council system as being a responder.
Absolutely. Can I just check that I have the authority on behalf of colleagues to draft that myself and send it in, given the time frame, rather than share it more broadly? I promise I won't be too outrageous in what I put in.
Yeah. Well, at this stage, it's just, I think, just to register our interest in it, really.
But we could also do it as individuals as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It does worry me that this is going to expire in less than 2 weeks. And as I said, I was completely unaware of it. And I suspect that the vast majority of the public are probably still unaware of it. And I would ask that you consider asking the county council to perhaps put that back a couple of weeks, something like that, end of February maybe.
If they
or worse than that, the early March.
Yeah, well, it is going till the end of February because 28th is the last day of February. But I'll ask them, Howard. I'll ask them if they'll keep it open until mid-March.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much on that. Any other items arising from Russell's report? No, thank you very much indeed, Russell. I appreciate the effort you put into actually drafting that. Can I move on to district councillors, which is Keith, and it could be Russell again. Who's going to start off out of you two?
I suspect it'll be me. Yeah, Russell's nodding at me. Not a great deal to report, to be honest, this month. I think the main thing I would focus on is COVID. The good news is that the cases are falling right across the county and right across the district, as they are in line with the national picture. So it would appear that the lockdown is working. Of course, it's too early yet to know quite how much of it is down to lockdown and how much it is down to the vaccine program, but the two together seem to be working to drive the figures down. However, a note of caution is that currently, if we look at the rolling rate per 100,000, then Liss has the second highest number per 100,000 in East Hampshire, and only Borden Garrison area actually has more than we do in Liss. So whilst the number week on week is falling, the actual rolling rate per 100,000 is still high here. So if I can ask everyone, please, to, through our links with the community, to reinforce the need to stick with what we're doing, to stick with stay home, stay safe and protect the NHS. Because I know it's a tired message now, but it is important. And I think it would be a shame if we were to lose anything now, having all gone so far through this. So it's just a point to note. Incidentally, Petersfield by comparison is much lower than us, and just over the border in West Sussex, the last 7 days have been so low a number that it's not actually recorded. So we are something of an anomaly. Now, whether that's a stats anomaly or a real anomaly, I'm not sure, but it's just something that I've been asked to make people aware of. And really, that's the only thing I've got this month, because as I say, on a district council perspective, it's been very quiet, except to say that our budget is, if any of you want some entertainment next Thursday evening, then the budget is being debated at next Thursday's full council meeting.
Thank you very much indeed, Keith. Russell, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, briefly, please, Chairman. My main role at the District Council these days is around climate change, because I'm assistant portfolio holder to Julie Butler, who's the communities and climate change lead, and I work with her on climate change issues. And as you know, we've got a climate change strategy. What's new, to let you know, is a couple of things. Firstly, we've now got a climate change reserve in the budget of £250,000, which is quite a lot of money, and that's for implementing our climate change strategy. So we've got funding for projects. The challenge now is to develop some good projects we can then allocate that money to. And then the other thing I wanted to let you know at this stage is still at early stage of planning, but we're developing a plan for a mini COP. COP as in, you know, the climate change conference that's happening in the UK in November. And we want to have a mini COP here in East Hampshire in the summer, to develop our local plans, but also to give advice to the government. So we will develop a series of recommendations for the government. And Damien Hines is working very closely with us at District on plans for this mini COP. And we'd love to have Liss Parish Council involved with that. We'll keep you posted. I'll let you know as soon as we've got a date. And just in passing, if anyone does know, you know, any people in Liss of any age who are passionate about tackling climate change and decarbonising, please put them in touch with me, because we'd like to have contacts in the community to work on climate change projects. So yeah, that was my update. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Russell. Just on that last point, former councillor Ian James, who resigned last year, before he resigned, he did prepare a paper on some of the things that we as a parish council could do in order to support work on climate change. Unfortunately, because he stood down, he wasn't able to take that forward. But I must say, I would be very keen if there was any councillor who was prepared to be a bit of a champion for this subject. We don't have, it is a subject which a particular committee is responsible for, which we could do, but possibly would be more successful if we just found somebody who was prepared to champion it. Can I leave that thought with you? Because I would like
Jenny's put her hand up.
Jenny's got her hand up, Roger.
Jenny!
As a full electric car driver person who's quite passionate about this, I'd love to talk to you more.
Great.
Jenny,
that's great.
Never say anything unless you.
Oh no, this is the sort of thing that you can do. This is the reason you join councils, is to do this kind of thing and to help and to make change. So yes.
That's
fantastic.
Andy's got his hand up as well, Roger.
I'm not volunteering to be climate change champion because Jenny sounds much better at it than I would ever be. But I was just wondering about the £250,000, Russell. Is that allocated to anything, or could we come to you with a proposition for greening some of our buildings, for example, and asking for money for that? I'm just interested in whether or not there's any kind of thought about how that's going to be spent, or is it far too early to ask that question?
Well, it's not too early to ask the question, and certainly if a community organisation comes forward with a good project, then that will be considered. But what you have to bear in mind is it has to be spread across the whole of East Hampshire. So it'll be difficult to get a big chunk of that money for Liss, or even for just Petersfield. But, you know, we can team up and we can do a scheme that covers, say, Petersfield and Liss, and then say, can we please have £40,000 for this scheme? And then, yeah, there's a good chance of getting that money if it's a good project. And there are all sorts of things: greening council buildings, school solar projects, community solar projects. You know, even doing a retrofit scheme in the community, particularly if it's for lower value housing where the currently EPC rating of like E, F. You know, those houses that on the lower ratings, they're the most useful to actually upgrade with retrofitting of insulation and double glazing, etc. So yeah, there are schemes that we could do that would be worthwhile, and I'll look forward to talking to Jenny about that.
Right. Well, thank you very much for that, Russell. Give me a moment or two to actually have a word with Jenny and also pass on some of the materials that Ian put together. I'm sure Jenny will have her own ideas. And we can talk about how we might proceed. And then perhaps we'll have a conversation with you, Russell, about how we can work with the HDC, not just to get money from you, although that's always nice, but I'm sure this is the sort of thing where it essentially is collaborative if you're actually going to make an impact, it seems to me. So let me leave that that and ask Jenny. Thank you very much. Anybody else wanting to raise anything?
Howard's got his hand up, Roger.
We're talking about the district council here.
Yeah. Thanks, Keith, for that information on Liss. I wasn't quite sure when you were talking about rolling figures, whether this was catching it or going into hospital or being in hospital or deaths.
This is catching it, Howard.
Okay. And you don't have any figures on the others, whether
No.
And did you say it was the second worst?
We're the second worst, yeah.
In what area?
In this ward is second worst.
In East Hampshire?
In East Hampshire.
Okay, yeah.
You can look up this information online, Howard.
Yes, I did, and I forgot to do it recently, so I apologise for that.
No, that's fine.
Leanne's got her hand up, Roger.
Should we put something on the website, on the Liss Parish Council website?
If we could, that would be really useful, Leanne. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and what the message and reinforcing the message, stay at home.
Yeah.
We have, I believe, we have quite a large coronavirus part of the website with links to the latest bit, and I would just want to include a link to the figures rather than publish them directly on the website, because they will just get out of date very quickly.
Very true. Yeah.
I'm not suggesting we publish the figures, but the thing is that people may not, if you have too many links, the information gets hidden. I think it's quite important that people know that we're now the second highest in terms of per 100,000, and that, we need to reinforce the message. It just needs to be, succinct, something succinct. And
could I ask Councillor MacDonald to look at the website and give us some feedback on what's there in terms of making it more succinct? And also, Keith, would you mind sending me the link with the list being the second highest? I just wanted to check the kind of source of that to make sure that we've got the right and most up-to-date version.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for that, and we'll see what we can get onto the website on that. Okay, anything else to do with the District Council and their reports? Right, thank you very much indeed, everybody. Let me move on to item 7, which is the Finance Officer's report. And as always, is essentially a list of expenditure of the last month. Any questions? Oh, sorry, Nick.
Just picking up the very welcome COVID grants on the last page. I just wondered whether Sarah would be able to tell us whether the 11,620 pounds will all be required in budget terms to make up for lack of fees for renting the village hall and the pavilion, or whether there is going to be any spare from that which we could use on things that we need to fund. If that's too difficult, I can leave it to talk to Sarah at another time.
Happy to report back. I know that the forecast was quite low for income for the coming year due to COVID. So I don't think we'll be at a loss after these grants, but I would need to double check with Liz.
The reason I've raised it is that Sarah and I have had a number of conversations about different sort of smallish items on in the facilities area, which there isn't a current means of funding. So that would be very helpful if there is any surplus there.
I think the basic point is that this is money given us for the current financial year, and really it's not until we get to the end of that year that we can see if there is any actually spare money or not, and it would be wrong to spend any of this money before then. So we will look at it then.
Are there any restrictions on how you can spend the money, the spare money?
Are we aware of restrictions other than presumably it relates to the charities to which the village hall and the pavilion relate? But other than that,
Sarah's got a hand up, Roger.
No, sorry, no, there's no restriction on how the money is spent, other than our own good governance.
Well said. Right, thank you very much indeed. Okay. In that case, then, could I move adoption of the RFO's report? Could I have a seconder for that, please?
Claire's got a hand up, and yeah.
Right. All those in favour of adoption? Anybody against?
No, that's everyone.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. That's helpful on that. Right. Let me move on. Item 8, the project review group, which is here for you to note. There are 1 or 2 typos and so on in it, but I'm not going to spend time at this meeting. The next meeting of the project review group will just tidy that up. I've very little to say really, because the big item is the village centre redesign project, and that's in front of you anyway to consider. Otherwise, there's a series of tidying up on other smaller amounts that had been identified previously. I don't think the project group actually identified anything new, but it did look across the board to make sure that we were spending within the money that we were expecting. There are 1 or 2 things here where, for example, on the West Liss recreation ground and so on, we're basically ensuring that we put in a revised bid. And I just draw your attention to, at the end of the item, 10 PR21 and 11 PR21, where we're beginning to look at how we can proceed in terms both of looking what I would call more socially related projects rather than ones simply providing supporting facilities, and also considering the question of communication to the community and how we can engage. And certainly in terms of the future work of the group, these are areas that we expect to slowly but steadily expand over time. Otherwise, that's all I was going to say to this. Any comment? Right, thank you very much indeed on that. Then We have item 9, the motion from the Chair of Highways, which relates to the village centre redesign. Can I turn to the Chair of Highways? Andy, you wish to speak to this?
Yes, very briefly though, Roger, if that's okay.
Yep.
Colleagues will recognise the document and the motion. The document has been worked on by this council in a number of different guises, and it reflects the collective efforts of the Highways Committee, the Planning Committee, and also the wisdom of the Project Review Group, and also the input from the previous village design statement group chair. I also wanted to just place on my record my thanks to Lizzie for doing a lot of the legwork in writing this and pulling this document together, which I think is in a really good shape now. The purpose of this motion is for the council to formally approve the brief to be used externally with parties to describe the work and potentially commission some further detailed work in options for the village centre. So it's very much a document that sets out our ambition for the village centre, anchored in the neighbourhood plan and the other documents to which it refers, but does not set a outcome, because that is the next stage of the process to work out how we get an outcome and how we consult residents and others in building that outcome in a way that's deliverable. I think I should probably pick up how it's taken into account the comments on the Project Review Group. The reference to the crossover has been removed, as I understand it, so the village centre is defined as ending just past the railway line, which was a point of clarification. I have also looked at the pictures on the back, and in the electronic document, they are legible and usable. So I left them in on the basis of the fact that that was a lot of the feedback from the former village centre design group chair and their contribution as a indicative look of options that could be considered. So I thought it important, given we consulted that group, to keep them in the document, notwithstanding the quality of them. I hope that covers everyone's points, and I'd just like to kind of move the motion now, please.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Can I add just one point to that and make a reference back to the minutes of the Project Review Group? In order to manage this project, we are setting up a small working group to carry it through. And it's proposed that the group will consist of the chairman of Highways, the chair overall, me, the chair of Finance, and also Councillor Wilson. That just to give you some reassurance that I've drafted some terms of reference for that group, which amongst other things says that although it will deal with the day-to-day management of the project, it cannot spend any money itself, because it's not a committee of the council. It has to refer back, nor can it change the terms of the overall project on that, and it has to report back regularly to the Project Review Group. So one's trying to get a balance there between the practicality of having a small group of people who are actually managing this, but on the other hand, making sure that they're not on too loose a leash, particularly when it comes to money and things of that sort. That's been circulated to the, will be circulated to the members of the Project Review Group for them to formally agree that, but that's the nub of what the terms of reference for that working group will be. Frankly, this brief has been seen, I think, by everybody at least once before, so, and we've made amendments. So unless you're absolutely desperate to say something, I'm not really expecting too many comments at this stage. But is there anybody who wishes to say something?
Howard's got his hand up, Roger.
Yeah, very quickly, if you look at 1.3 on the front page, page 1,
yeah,
it says Liss has a distinct centre based on Station Road and parts of, well, it's parts of Station Road, so that's implies something that's just not the case. So that ought to be reworded so it's made clear it's parts of Station Road.
I take the point. I'm sure we can tidy that up.
Yeah, and the other thing is, with the diagrams, thanks, these are an awful lot better than they were the last time I saw them. I'm not sure when it comes to looking at the diagrams 2 through to 4, if I'm reading this correctly, because it's very small and I've used a magnifying glass. Am I right in thinking that the proposal is to remove the planters in front of the shops, except in the one that's nearest the village hall?
Andy, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I was just so the diagrams, that I think is the suggestion as one of the things that we could do to improve the village centre. But just to be really, really clear, it is a suggestion that came out of the village centre design group some years ago that we're providing as context and an idea. The solutions that will come from this will be provided by the people that we engage to do the work on developing the plan. So it is an indicative suggestion rather than anything by which we are bound.
Okay, because diagram 4, which is suggested piazza style, those 2 of the planters are quite clearly still there, and they're 2.
Because it's a different indicative thing, Howard. None of them. It's not what we want it to look like. It's ideas. So we're saying we might want to remove planters. We might want a piazza. Here's some ideas. Let's work it up.
Okay, as long as that's made clear to whoever's looking at it.
I believe it's clear in the document, but I'll read it again one final time to make sure I'm satisfied by that.
If you look, Howard, if you look at on page 14 at the top where it says Appendix A, we added the words, "These are included for illustrative purposes only," which admittedly is the sort of weasel words that developers and estate agents put into things. But nevertheless, I think it's true in this case. Work was done. It's good to record that work, but actually, whether what is done at the end of the day follows that, well, I think there's a lot of water to flow on that.
Okay, I'm happy to back down on that understanding.
Thank you very much indeed. In that case, then, Andy, you're moving the motion. Do you have a seconder? Nick, thank you. All those in favour of the motion, which is on the agenda, the Liss Parish Council approves the brief for the village centre redesign following consideration and recommendation by the project review group. All those in favour?
Yeah, that's everyone.
All right, thank you very much indeed. That's fine. Now, let me move on to the action plan. As you know, we have an action plan each year. We're coming to the end of the current one, and we will, at the parish meeting, be going through that to see what we've achieved and what we haven't achieved. This is a draft of the action plan which is proposed for the coming financial year. The first part tends to remain pretty much the same. It is a reflection of the ongoing activities of the council. They don't change very much from year to year, but they do provide a commitment for the council to take things on. In terms of the second part, which is key projects, I think it's fair to say that the one on COVID-19 is very open-ended because we're not quite sure where we will be going on that. But it's important to note under highways priorities, some of the priorities that were noted in relation to the project review group are there. Similarly with the facilities priorities that we've got there. And developing proposals for the village centre. And then a very generalised one about proposals to support organisation in terms of enhancing the social welfare of the village. This is the point I touched upon earlier, that we are just beginning to think through how we can perhaps do a little bit more in terms of some of the social issues of the village, working with others on that. So this is, I admit, a very generalised commitment, but it does commit us to do something and to report back at the end of the year. So I think it's quite important. And we've got the Liss neighbourhood plan. That I feel guilty about because it's been there for over a year and we've not achieved this, partly because of lockdown, partly because of what the South Downs National Park has been doing. They've not taken forward their monitoring activity in quite the way that was expected and have been very much slower because of COVID. Nevertheless, being top of the neighbourhood plan and what it's actually delivering on the ground as opposed to what it actually proposes is still an important issue for us. So these are these are headline issues here. They're not in depth. It's quite deliberate to try and get this down on a single piece of paper so that one can see some of the main things that we want to try and achieve. So any comments at this point?
Just got one.
Yes.
On bullet point 4 at the top.
Yes.
We've got engagement with the community. I wondered whether we should include the word local businesses.
It's a fair point. We tend to sweep them up with everything else, but they are a specific group in their own right. Others comfortable if we work the word business in? Nick, is your point related to that?
I have a point related to it, just to recall that at the review committee, we agreed to put in businesses in a revised version of the community engagement policy.
We did, quite correct.
We fit with that.
So it would be appropriate to work in the word business.
Yeah, local businesses.
Yeah, local businesses, okay. Any other comment? Nick, a separate comment.
On the last but one bullet point on the page, I think it might, I think, be more understandable to say, rather than exploring proposals to say instead exploring opportunities with supporting organisations for enhancing.
Is that clearer to others?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
And if I may, while I've got the floor, so to speak, on the third of the highways priorities, I wonder whether we could be more specific and say, and costs of traffic calming measures on Forest Road.
Andy, are you comfortable with the word traffic calming appearing?
I would rather. I think there might be a bit more than that on Forest Road.
How about traffic calming and other measures?
Yeah, something like that. That's fine. I just don't want to. The conversation that we will have to have is more than just the kind of bollards. That's the challenge. So, you know, I don't think we will get just bollards. So it's partly exploring what we need to do in terms of highways. That's all. Okay. But I hear what you're saying and understand, Nick.
Can we change that? Sorry,
Nick? It'd be reassuring to residents in Liss Forest to have the traffic calming in. So if it could be traffic calming and other measures, that would be great.
I'm comfortable with that.
Well, why don't you put costs of further work, including traffic calming measures?
Well, it's got to be traffic calming and other measures.
And other measures.
Yeah, that was the further work. Yeah. Yeah.
So, to be clear, I was trying to get rid of the.
I agree with that. Yeah. That's fine.
Because there hasn't been any work yet.
County Council would say that the flattening of the curbs and redoing all of the pavement is work. But I mean, fine. I mean, get rid of the further. If you just put just exploring the opportunity and costs of improvement work on Forest Road.
Improvement work, yeah.
Okay. On Forest Road.
Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately, the levelling of the pavement has actually had a damaging effect, because cars, especially ones driving out of the village, tend to go up onto the pavement if there's other cars coming the other way.
Indeed. let's not spend too much time. You're not wrong, but let's not discuss that. So do we have a wording there? If I can turn to Sarah.
I think I've got it, if it's Andy's latest one. Exploring the opportunity and costs of improvement works on Forest Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it lose the sense that includes traffic calming? Because Nick was keen on that because he thought that would resonate with the Residents Association.
I thought we'd put traffic calming and improvement work.
Could we just have what Sarah read out, but including traffic calming as the thing? Only because it is improvement work, and it is going to be broader than that, because we're going to be looking at pavements and all of it, because traffic calming in itself is not going to be a good solution. I don't want to get into the detail, but it needs to be improvement.
If we can have an including traffic calming inserted in that would do it. Okay. Any other comments on the action plan?
Sarah's got something.
I've already spoken with Roger and Nick, I think, about this. It was just an omission. I would suggest that we put something in about restoration of the Millennium Mosaic under facilities priorities. So exploring options for restoration of the Millennium Mosaic.
Fine. That certainly is something that has been discussed in passing and that we felt we ought to look at. We've been responsible for that when it was originally installed, as I understand it. Any other comments? Right. Well, we will produce a revised version, and we will hope to be able to tick off a final version. Will it be at the meeting of the county of the council before the parish meeting, or after that, or at the parish meeting? I'm looking at Sarah here.
Council meeting is Monday the 15th, and the annual parish meeting is Wednesday the 17th. So I was assuming it would go to the annual parish meeting, but there's nothing it's stopping. It could be considered by the council again.
This is my own failure to remember dates. I think the intention is that it's finally signed off on the 15th, and we present it to an astonished public on the 17th.
I think the idea is it's considered at the annual parish meeting, which gives parishioners a chance to comment before it's finally signed off in April's council.
Yeah, that's very true. Do we need to do it then on the 15th then at all at council?
I don't think we do we? No.
Probably not. I'll send around a revised version, so you'll all have seen the final version going to the annual parish meeting. So if you're not happy, there's a chance for you to have your say before then.
Right. So just to clarify that, having rather sort of muddied the water there, we will circulate a revised version. Any further comment, please, to Sarah. But we will present it to the public at the annual parish meeting. We will give the public a chance to comment further, and then hopefully at a council meeting in April, we simply sign it off. We will at that time, we will be looking at the action plan from this current year as well, to see how we've done. Okay? Fine, thank you very much for that. Right. I'm moving on to item 11, which is the consent item business. Jenny, because you are...
I was just thinking, don't we need to have an motion to go into exempt first and then do the business?
Yeah, I think that's what Roger's just about to come to, I hope, anyway.
Yes, exactly. I was just coming to the motion to move into the session. All right, well, I'll do that first then, but then I will immediately turn to Jenny on that. Right, can I move the motion that we move into exec session? Do I need a seconder for that?
You do, yeah. I think Leanne's got a question first. Leanne?
I did have a question, Roger, that isn't something to do with the exempt session. So if we're going into exempt, perhaps they ought to do it now. That was just to say that I'm aware that when we started these Zoom meetings for full council, the agenda was changed slightly, so we don't actually have the full agenda. The full agenda is when we have bits on the end that give the councillors an opportunity to raise issues under matters of concern or some of the external bodies that they're on. And I wondered whether we could look towards going back to the full agenda at our next ordinary full council meeting. Is there any reason why we shouldn't do that?
I understand the point, and I'm not unsympathetic to it. I mean, originally when we went into Zoom, we thought that it would be difficult to manage and so on. I think we're getting better at managing Zoom. And it's certainly true that we have lost the opportunity for councillors to bring up other matters and indeed report on outside bodies. Can I just have a word with the clerk about that and see what we can do? I'm still keen to try and keep a slimmed down agenda if possible, but I do take the point you make.
Yeah, we did have a slightly reduced agenda because we didn't know how it was going to work out. And I think it's worked better than I thought it would.
Have a word with, if I may, I'll have a word with the clerk about the practicalities of this.
Roger Nick's got his hand up.
Just when you're thinking about it with the clerk, I think we did say at one point, something like 2 years ago, that it was quite an important aspect of community engagement to hear how things were looking from other stakeholders' point of view. So I would just like to support what Leanne has suggested.
Okay, let's see what we can do then. Thank you very much for that. That was while we were still in open session. I was now about to move that we move into exempt session. Can I have somebody to second that, please? I saw Claire first. Right, all those in favour of moving to exempt session? All those against? Thank you.
Everyone. Right, can you do me